I'd been an ER doctor for 12 years. I'd seen everything: car accidents, heart attacks, gunshot wounds, overdoses. I'd saved lives and I'd watched people die. It was the job. You learn to compartmentalize. You learn to go home at the end of your shift and leave the worst of it behind. But some cases stay with you. Some cases you never forget, no matter how hard you try. This is about one of those cases, and about what happened 5 years later when the daughter of the man I couldn't save walked into my ER as the new nurse on my team. My name is Dr. Sarah Mitchell. I'm 42 years old. I work at Mercy General Hospital in Seattle. And this is the story of how one decision I made changed everything. It started on a Friday night in October, 5 years ago. The ER was slammed. It always was on Friday nights, but this one was worse than usual. A multi-car pileup on the highway, a fire at an apartment complex, the regular flow of chest pains and broken bones and flu cases. We were running on 3 doctors instead of our usual 5. Dr. Chen was on vacation. Dr. Rodriguez had called in sick. So it was just me, Dr. Williams, and Dr. Park trying to handle everything. I'd been on shift for 8 hours already. I had 4 more to go. I was tired, hungry, and running on my 3rd cup of coffee. Around 9 p.m., 2 ambulances pulled up at the same time. I heard the sirens and headed to the ambulance bay. The first paramedic jumped out. 32-year-old male, stabbing victim, multiple wounds to the chest and abdomen, BP dropping, he's losing a lot of blood. The second paramedic was right behind him. 58-year-old male, cardiac arrest, been doing CPR for 12 minutes, 1 shock delivered, no response. 2 critical patients arriving at the exact same time. This is every ER doctor's nightmare. You have to make a choice. You have to decide who gets attention first, who has the better chance of survival, who you're going to try to save. I looked at both gurneys. The stabbing victim was young, early 30s, bleeding everywhere but conscious, his eyes wide with fear. The cardiac arrest patient was older, unconscious, gray-faced, his chest moving only because the paramedics were doing compressions. Room 1 for the stabbing victim, I said. Room 3 for the cardiac arrest. Dr. Williams, take the stabbing. I'll take cardiac. It was a split-second decision based on training and instinct. The stabbing victim was younger, conscious, actively bleeding. He needed surgery immediately. Dr. Williams was a better trauma surgeon than me. The cardiac arrest patient needed someone to keep working on him, to try to get his heart started again, and I was good at that. I followed the cardiac patient into room 3. The paramedics gave me the rundown. Robert Chen, 58, history of heart disease, collapsed at home during the dinner. Wife called 911 immediately. We got there in 6 minutes. He was already in cardiac arrest. We've been doing CPR for 12 minutes. Gave him 1 shock, no response. 12 minutes was a long time, but not impossibly long. I'd seen people come back after longer. Let's keep going, I said to my team. Continue compressions. Get the crash cart ready. Let's push another round of epi. We worked on Robert Chen for 23 more minutes. Compressions, shocks, medications, everything we had. His heart wouldn't restart. The monitor stayed flat. Finally, I had to make the call. Time of death? 9:34 p.m. I pulled off my gloves and looked at the man on the table. Robert Chen, 58 years old, dead from a heart attack. It happened. It happened all the time in the ER. You couldn't save everyone. You did your best, and sometimes it wasn't enough. I walked out of room 3 to find Robert Chen's wife in the waiting area. She was sitting in a plastic chair, her hands clasped together, her face pale with worry. Mrs. Chen, I said, and she stood up immediately. Is he okay? Can I see him? This was the worst part of the job, worse than the blood and the chaos and the impossible decisions, telling someone their loved one was dead. I'm so sorry. We did everything we could, but we weren't able to save him. Your husband passed away. Mrs. Chen's face crumpled. She let out a sound that wasn't quite a scream, more like all the air leaving her body at once. She collapsed back into the chair. I sat down next to her. Is there anyone I can call for you? Family, friends. My daughter, she managed. I need to call my daughter. Would you like me to call her for you? No, no, I'll do it. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her phone. I sat with her while she made the call, listened to her tell her daughter that her father was gone, watched her break down completely when her daughter started crying on the other end of the line. After a while, I had to go back to work. We were still slammed. There were other patients waiting, but I couldn't stop thinking about Mrs. Chen sitting in that waiting room, her whole world destroyed. I checked on the stabbing victim. Dr. Williams had stabilized him and sent him up to surgery. He was going to make it. The patient I'd chosen to prioritize was going to live. The patient I'd sent to room 3 had died. Had I made the right choice? I pushed the thought away. You couldn't think like that. You made the best decision you could with the information you had. You moved on to the next patient. But over the next few weeks, I kept thinking about Robert Chen, about whether I should have taken his case instead of letting Dr. Williams handle the stabbing, about whether those extra few seconds would have made a difference. I talked to Dr. Williams about it one night after our shift. Do you ever wonder if we make the right calls? When we have to choose between patients? All the time, he said, but we can't know what would have happened if we'd made a different choice. We do our best with what we know in the moment. That's all we can do. The cardiac arrest from a few weeks ago, Robert Chen. I keep thinking maybe if I'd gotten to him faster. Sarah, he was in cardiac arrest for 12 minutes before he got to us. You worked on him for another 23. His heart was too damaged. There was probably nothing anyone could have done. Probably. You did everything right. You have to let it go. I tried to let it go. I really did. But Robert Chen's case stuck with me in a way that other cases didn't. Maybe because I'd had to choose. Maybe because that choice felt like it mattered more than usual. 5 years went by. I kept working in the ER, kept saving lives and losing them, kept making impossible decisions and second-guessing myself late at night when I couldn't sleep. Then, 3 months ago, we hired a new nurse. Her name was Emily Chen. I didn't make the connection at first. Chen is a common last name, and it had been 5 years. I'd treated hundreds of patients since Robert Chen. Emily started on a Monday. She was 27 years old, fresh out of nursing school, eager and nervous. I was assigned to train her for her first week. Welcome to the ER, I said when we met that first morning. I'm Dr. Mitchell. You'll be shadowing me this week. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. I'm excited to learn from you. She was good, competent, quick to learn, calm under pressure. By the end of her first week, I was impressed. On Friday afternoon, we had a rare, quiet moment. We were standing at the nurse's station, catching up on paperwork. You're doing great, I told Emily. Best new nurse we've had in a while. Thank you. That means a lot, especially from you. Why especially from me? She hesitated. Then she said, because you were my father's doctor. 5 years ago, Robert Chen, he came in with cardiac arrest and you tried to save him. Everything stopped. The noise of the ER faded. All I could hear was her words echoing in my head. Robert Chen, her father. I didn't realize. I said, I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you. She looked down at her paperwork. It's actually part of why I became a nurse. After Dad died, I wanted to help people the way the ER staff tried to help him. That's wonderful. He'd be proud of you. Would he? She looked up at me, and there was something in her eyes I couldn't read. I sometimes wonder if things could have been different that night. We did everything we could for your father. Did you? The question hung in the air between us. Before I could respond, a trauma alert came over the speakers. Car accident, multiple victims, 5 minutes out. We have to go, I said. The moment passed. We dealt with the trauma. Then more patients came in. By the end of the shift, I'd almost forgotten about the conversation. But over the next few weeks, I noticed things. Small things that added up to something bigger. Emily was always watching me. When I made decisions about patient care, about who to see first, about how to allocate resources, she was watching and evaluating. One night, we had 2 patients come in at the same time. A 55-year-old man with chest pain. A 30-year-old woman with severe allergic reaction. I sent Emily to start the allergic reaction treatment while I checked on the chest pain. Later, after both patients were stable, Emily approached me. Why did you see the chest pain first? The allergic reaction was obvious. You could start treatment immediately. The chest pain needed evaluation to determine if it was cardiac or something else. But the allergic reaction could have been life-threatening. You handled it perfectly. She's fine. But if I hadn't been able to handle it? If I'd needed help? Emily, what's this really about? She looked at me directly. I'm trying to understand how doctors make decisions. How they choose who to help first when multiple people need help at the same time. It's complicated. You assess the situation, the available resources, the likely outcomes. You make the best choice you can. And what if you choose wrong? You can't think about it that way. You have to trust your training and experience. But you don't always get it right, do you? I stared at her. No, nobody gets it right every time, but we do our best. She nodded and walked away. But I could feel the accusation underneath her words, the question she wasn't asking directly. Did you get it right the night my father died? I talked to Dr. Williams about it. The new nurse, Emily. She's Robert Chen's daughter. Robert Chen? The cardiac arrest from 5 years ago? Yeah, and I think she blames me for his death. Why would she blame you? We did everything right that night. I don't know, but she keeps questioning my decisions, watching everything I do, asking pointed questions about how I prioritize patients. Have you talked to her about it? Not directly. I don't know how to bring it up. Maybe you should. Clear the air. Let her know we did everything we could for her father. But I didn't know how to have that conversation. How do you tell someone that you tried your best to save their father and failed? How do you explain the impossible choices you have to make in the ER? 2 weeks later, it all came to a head. We had a situation almost identical to the night Robert Chen died. 2 ambulances pulled up at the same time. A car accident victim, 28 years old, severe head trauma, and a cardiac arrest, 62-year-old male, down for 15 minutes. I was standing at the ambulance bay with Emily. We both heard the paramedics' reports. We're at room 1 for the head trauma, I said. Room 3 for the cardiac arrest. Emily, you're with me on the cardiac? We rushed the cardiac patient inside, started compressions, got the crash cart, pushed medications, worked on him for 18 minutes before I had to call it. Time of death, 11:47 p.m. I pulled off my gloves and turned around to find Emily staring at me. You did the same thing, she said quietly. What? You made the same choice. You sent the younger patient to room 1 and took the older cardiac arrest patient yourself. That was the right call. The head trauma needed immediate surgical evaluation. The cardiac arrest needed someone to continue resuscitation efforts. Just like with my father, Emily dash dash. Except this time, the cardiac arrest patient still died. Just like my father died. I know this is hard for you, but hard for me? Her voice rose. Do you know what it was like? Getting that call from my mother, rushing to the hospital, finding out my father was dead. I'm sorry. I know losing your father was... You chose wrong. That night, you chose wrong. You sent that stabbing victim to Dr. Williams because he was young and had a better chance. But my father deserved a chance too. He deserved someone fighting for him with everything they had. I did fight for him. We all did. But you made the choice. You decided who lived and who died. And my father died because you chose to save someone else first. Other staff members were starting to notice. We were standing in the middle of the ER having a confrontation. Emily, this isn't the time or place for this conversation. We need to... You're right. It's not. She ripped off her gloves. I need to take a break. She walked away, leaving me standing there with a dead patient behind me and questions I couldn't answer. I went to the break room 20 minutes later. Emily was sitting at the table, her head in her hands. Can we talk? I asked, and she looked up. Her eyes were red. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things. I was out of line. No, you weren't. You're grieving your father. You have questions. You deserve answers. Do I? Because I'm not sure there are good answers. I sat down across from her. You're right. There aren't always good answers in this job. Sometimes there are just impossible choices. Tell me about that night, 5 years ago. Tell me what happened. So I did. I told her everything: the multi-car pileup, the fire, being short-staffed, the two ambulances arriving simultaneously, the split-second decision I had to make. I chose to send the stabbing victim to Dr. Williams because he needed surgery immediately, and Dr. Williams is a better trauma surgeon than me. I took your father because I thought I could help him, because I've had success with cardiac arrest before, because I believed I could bring him back. But you couldn't. No, his heart was too damaged. He'd been down too long before the paramedics got there. By the time he reached us, there was probably nothing anyone could have done. Probably, she repeated, but not definitely. You don't know for sure. No, I don't know for sure. And that's something I've had to live with for 5 years. You think about him? All the time. Your father's case has haunted me since the night it happened. I've questioned that decision hundreds of times, wondered if I should have done things differently, wondered if those few seconds would have made a difference. Emily was quiet for a long moment, then she said, "My father had a heart condition. He'd had 2 previous heart attacks. His cardiologist had told him his heart was weak, that another major cardiac event would probably be fatal. I didn't know that." "My mother didn't tell you?" "That night?" She was in shock. She could barely speak. And we were so busy, I didn't have time to get a full history. All I knew was what the paramedics told me. "So you were working blind, making decisions without all the information." That's the ER. You make decisions with incomplete information all the time. You do the best you can with what you know. My father's cardiologist told us after he died that even if he'd been in the hospital when his heart stopped, they probably couldn't have saved him. His heart was just too weak. I didn't know what to say to that. "I blamed you," Emily continued. "For 5 years, I blamed you for my father's death. I convinced myself that if you'd made a different choice that night, if you'd prioritized him differently, he'd still be alive." That's understandable. You were looking for someone to blame. But it wasn't your fault, was it? You did your job. You made the best decision you could with the information you had. And my father died anyway because his heart was too damaged to save. I'm sorry I couldn't save him. I'm sorry I blamed you. She wiped her eyes. I applied for this job specifically because I knew you worked here. I wanted to understand. I wanted to see if you were incompetent or careless, or if there was a reason my father died. And what did you find? That you're a good doctor, that you care about your patients, that you make hard decisions every day, and sometimes those decisions don't work out the way you want them to. That's the job. It's a terrible job sometimes. The worst. But also the best. We sat in silence for a moment, then Emily said, "Can I tell you something?" "About my father?" "Of course. He was a math teacher. High school. He loved it. He used to say that teaching was about giving students the tools to solve problems they didn't know they had yet. He sounds like a good man." He was. And he would have understood what you do. He would have understood that sometimes there are problems with no perfect solution, that sometimes you do your best and it's still not enough. Thank you for telling me that. Thank you for trying to save him. Even though it didn't work, thank you for trying. Emily and I both went back to work that night. We didn't talk about her father again for a while, but something had shifted between us. The tension was gone, the accusation was gone. What was left was understanding. Over the next few weeks, I watched Emily grow into the job. She was good with patients, calm in emergencies, quick to learn, and she never questioned my decisions again, at least not in that accusatory way. One night, about a month after our conversation, we had another situation. 3 patients arrived within minutes of each other, all critical, all needing immediate attention. We had 3 doctors on shift: me, Dr. Williams, and Dr. Park. We could each take 1 patient, but someone had to decide who took which patient. I looked at the 3 cases: a 25-year-old with a severe asthma attack, turning blue, struggling to breathe, a 40-year-old with a major bleeding from a head wound, probably a brain bleed, a 70-year-old with chest pain, possible heart attack. I made the call. "Dr. Park, take the asthma. Dr. Williams, take the head bleed. I'll take the chest pain." Emily was assigned to help me. As we worked on the chest pain patient, she said, "Why did you take the chest pain instead of the head bleed? Dr. Williams is better at trauma, and the asthma was straightforward enough for Dr. Park. But you chose to take the oldest patient, the one with the least chance of survival. I chose to take the patient I thought I could help most. That's what we do. We assess and we choose and we do our best. And if he dies, then he dies. And I'll have done everything I could." The chest pain patient didn't die. We stabilized him and sent him up to the cardiac unit. The asthma patient recovered. The head bleed patient went to surgery and survived. All three lived, but they didn't always. Sometimes you made all the right choices and patients still died. That was the job. After that shift, Emily approached me. "I get it now. Why you do what you do. How you make those decisions. Do you? You don't choose who you think has the best chance. You choose who you think you can help most. There's a difference." There is. My father, that night, you thought you could help him. You believed you could bring him back. I did. I really did. I believe you. And I think my father would have appreciated that, someone fighting for him, even though it didn't work. I wish it had worked. Me too. But it not working doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just means sometimes people die, even when we try our hardest to save them. That's exactly right. 6 months after Emily started working in our ER, we had a staff meeting. Our hospital administrator was there to talk about performance metrics and patient satisfaction scores. At the end of the meeting, she said, "I want to recognize one of our newer nurses. Emily Chen has received multiple commendations from patients and families. She's demonstrated exceptional skill and compassion. Emily, would you like to say a few words?" Emily stood up. "I just want to say that working in this ER has taught me what it really means to care for patients. It's not about following protocols or hitting metrics. It's about making impossible decisions and living with the outcomes. It's about fighting for every patient, even when you know you might not win. That's what I see the doctors and nurses here do every day. That's what I'm proud to be part of." She looked at me when she said it, and I knew she was thinking about her father, about that night 5 years ago, about the conversation we'd had and the understanding we'd reached. After the meeting, I pulled Emily aside. "That was a nice speech. I meant it. I really have learned a lot here, from you especially. I'm glad. You're an excellent nurse. Your father would be proud." I think he would be. I also think he'd be glad I'm working with you, that I learned what really happened that night, that I understand now. Do you? Fully. Fully might be too strong a word, but I understand enough. I understand that you tried, that you cared, that you've carried his case with you for 5 years. That's more than I could have asked for. I'll probably carry it with me forever. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe remembering the patients we lose keeps us fighting harder for the ones we can save. You're wise beyond your years, Emily. I learned from the best. A year after Emily started working in our ER, we had another case that echoed that night from 6 years ago. Two critical patients, one doctor short, impossible choices. This time, I let Emily help me make the call. "What do you think?" I asked her, showing her the patient information. "The trauma patient needs surgery. Send him to Dr. Williams. You take the cardiac arrest." Even though the cardiac arrest has been down for 20 minutes, even though, because someone needs to fight for him, and that someone should be you. I took the cardiac arrest, worked on him for 30 minutes. His heart restarted. He survived. Not everyone survived. We still lost patients. We still made choices that didn't work out the way we hoped. But knowing that Emily understood, that she'd forgiven me for the choice I made the night her father died, made it a little easier to carry. 2 years after Emily joined our team, I was offered a promotion, head of the ER department. It meant less time with patients and more time with paperwork and administration. I wasn't sure I wanted it. I talked to Emily about it. "I don't know if I'm ready to step back from direct patient care." "Why not?" "Because this is what I'm good at." making decisions in the moment, fighting for patience. I'm not sure I want to give that up. You wouldn't be giving it up. You'd be helping more people by improving the department, by training the next generation of doctors. Is that what you think I should do? I think you should do whatever feels right. But I also think you've spent 6 years punishing yourself for decisions you made in impossible situations. Maybe it's time to let yourself step into a role where you can help prevent those impossible situations from happening as often. When did you become so wise? Like, I had a good teacher. I took the promotion. I'm still working in the ER, but now I'm focusing on protocols and staffing and making sure we're never in a situation where we have to choose between patients because we don't have enough resources. Emily is still on my team. She's become one of our best nurses. Patients love her, staff love her, and she's planning to go back to school to become a nurse practitioner. Following in your father's footsteps, I told her when she told me about her plans. He was a teacher. Now you're going to teach the next generation of nurses. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess I am. He'd be proud. I think so too. And Dr. Mitchell, thank you. For what? For trying to save my father. For carrying that with you. For showing me what it means to really care about patients, even when you can't save them all. For giving me a chance, even when you knew I blamed you. I'm glad you're part of this team. Me too. It's been 3 years since Emily walked into my ER and whispered that I was the reason her father died. 3 years since that confrontation in the middle of a shift. 3 years since we sat in the break room and talked about impossible choices. I still think about Robert Chen. His case still haunts me sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep. I still wonder if I made the right choice that night. If those few seconds would have made a difference, if I should have done something differently. But I've made peace with it, or as much peace as you can make with losing a patient. I did my best. I fought for him. It wasn't enough. That's the reality of this job. And having Emily on my team, seeing her every day, knowing that she understands and has forgiven me, makes it easier to forgive myself. Last week, we had a young doctor join our team, fresh out of residency, eager and terrified. On his second shift, we had 2 critical patients arrive at the same time. He froze, didn't know who to help first. Emily and I exchanged a look. Then I put my hand on his shoulder. This is the hardest part of the job, I told him, and you have to choose. You assess the situation, trust your training, and make the best decision you can. And you have to accept that sometimes, even when you do everything right, people still die. How do you live with that? You remember that you tried. You remember that you cared. You carry it with you and let it make you a better doctor. He made his choice, sent one patient to Dr. Williams, took the other himself. Both patients survived. Not every choice works out that way, but this one did. After the shift, Emily found me in the break room. That was good advice you gave him about carrying it with you. I learned it from experience. 6 years of experience with one case in particular. My father's case. Your father's case. It's made me a better doctor, more thoughtful about my decisions, more aware of the weight they carry. I'm glad something good came from it. Me too. And Emily, having you here, working with me, it's helped more than you know. Thank you for giving me that chance, for not letting your anger destroy you, for becoming an amazing nurse despite losing your father. Thank you for trying to save him, for not forgetting him, for showing me that even when we lose, it matters that we tried. We sat together in that break room, 2 people connected by a tragedy from 6 years ago, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The new nurse looked at me and whispered, "You're the reason my father died." And she was right. In a way, I made a choice that night. I prioritized one patient over another. Her father died while I fought to save him. But she was also wrong, because his death wasn't my fault. It was the reality of emergency medicine, the reality of impossible choices, the reality that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you can't save everyone. And 3 years later, that nurse and I work side by side. We save lives together. We lose lives together. We make impossible choices together. And every day I carry Robert Chen with me. His memory makes me a better doctor. His daughter's presence on my team reminds me why I do this job. Not every story has a happy ending, but this one has an ending I can live with. The new nurse looked at me and whispered, "You're the reason my father died." And then, years later, she looked at me and said, "Thank you for trying to save him." Both statements were true. Both mattered. And together they taught me something important about this job, about loss, about forgiveness. Sometimes trying is enough, even when it doesn't work. Sometimes the act of fighting for someone matters as much as the outcome. I'll never forget Robert Chen. I'll never forget that impossible choice. And I'll never forget his daughter standing in my ER, accusing me, challenging me, and eventually understanding me. That's emergency medicine. Impossible choices, unbearable losses, and somehow, in the midst of it all, moments of grace. Emily is still on my team. Robert Chen's case still haunts me. And every day I walk into that ER and make choices that could save lives or fail to save them. But I do it with the knowledge that trying matters, that fighting for every patient matters, that carrying the weight of the ones you lose makes you better for the ones you might save. The new nurse looked at me and whispered, "You're the reason my father died." She was wrong, but she was also right. And figuring out how both those things could be true taught me more about being a doctor than any textbook ever did. That's my story. That's what I learned from the night Robert Chen died and the 3 years I spent working alongside his daughter. Not every patient lives, but every patient deserves someone fighting for them. And that's what I try to do every single day, even when it's not enough, especially when it's not enough. Because trying matters, even when you fail. And that's what Emily helped me understand. That's what her father's death and her forgiveness taught me. The new nurse looked at me and whispered, "You're the reason my father died." And 3 years later, we're both still here, still fighting, still trying, still saving the ones we can and mourning the ones we can't. And that's emergency medicine. That's life. That's the job. And I wouldn't change it for anything.